a team that definitely has got a lot of coverage in the past, but all of a sudden people don't really talk about them that much. Not very exciting. Now, if you are a New England Patriots fan, you probably talk about them a lot, and you absolutely love this team, and you're all sold on Mac Jones and whatnot. But Mac Jones is a guy that had a pretty solid rookie season, and I'm expecting his second year to be an absolute nightmare and an absolute disaster because if anyone has been following what's been going on in New England, basically their offense looks horrible. Their coaching is all over the place. Right now, their technical offensive coordinator, even though it's kind of just a weird group, but it's Matt Patricia. Yes, you remember former defensive coordinator for the Patriots, is now their offensive coordinator. So we're looking at this. David Andrews recently, basically was talking about the offense and said, they were horrible. And David Andrews has been their starting center for quite some time there. He said that the offensive line looks out of shambles. The communication is a big problem. They're not being able to run the football, and their offense is just getting completely shut down in training camp. Now, defense on the other side is pretty solid. I don't think it's quite what it was last year, but this is still not a good sign when your offense just cannot do anything in practice. And the other thing is all of the miscommunication. I think this is going to be a disaster season for the Patriots offense. I have faith in their defense pretty much year in and year out. And even when they had 6 guys leave because of COVID in 2020, their defense still was decent enough, and they get exposed sometimes. But Bill Belichick, being the genius that he is, was able to kind of compensate for those guys, and they ended up being all right. But the offense this year, they do not have Josh McDaniels anymore. And I know Josh McDaniels is unproven as a head coach, but I always thought he was a really solid coordinator, someone that Bill could kind of just be like, hey, man, go play with the offense, go ahead. They have Matt Patricia as their OC. They do not have a good offensive coaching staff. And we're talking about a guy in Mac Jones who, not trying to rip Mac Jones, but Mac Jones is your prototypical system quarterback. That's how he looks. That's how he looks. That's how he plays, everything like that. They do not have the personnel on offense. Their players are horrible. Kendrick Bourne is probably their best wideout. And I like Kendrick Bourne. I'm a Niner fan. I have a soft spot for KB. But the guy you bring in, your flash move is yeah, we got him, Devontae Parker. We drafted a guard in the first round. We got
Jacoby. A guard with a consensus 3rd or 4th round grade out of Chattanooga.
Yeah, so it's so it's probably going to take some time for him to adjust to the speed of the NFL as well, and the size of the NFL, being from small school. But I think they're going to be awful, dude. I think this is going to be a probably a bottom 5 offense in the NFL, which is crazy because what do we grow up? Me and you, what do we grow up with throughout our career throughout our watching career?
A system quarterback playing for the Patriots. Nothing's changed. The first one broke our hearts every time, but Tom Brady. No, it was great offense. And also great defense, though. That's the thing, is they always had both. When they drafted Mac Jones, they messed up. I don't care.
It worked last year.
It worked. Yeah, it worked last year, but long term, I don't see a benefit. How much longer is Bill Belichick going to coach? When a new coach comes in, when Bill Belichick retires, I've seen people saying I think he retires this year. When a new coach comes in, they're not going to want Mac Jones. I don't see any coach coming in and be like, I got a quarterback I can build around. No. He's a quarterback where you have everything already set, and they're like, well, I guess this guy's available in the middle of the first round. I guess we can draft him because we kind of need somebody because we don't want Jared Stidham. When Jared Stidham's the other option, you're probably taking almost anybody.
Dude, and the offense is horrible. And the thing is, so apparently one of the big things with the Patriots that they've always been able to run the football so well, right?
Yeah.
Well, they changed their scheme, and basically what David Andrews said is they're not meshing at all, and they cannot there's miscommunication, guys are running the wrong plays. And I get it's early on in camp, but we saw when Matt Patricia was kind of running the show as on the Lions, it was a disaster. It was always that kind of stuff. And he was the DC for the Patriots, but if you're the DC for the Patriots, who's their real defensive coordinator? It's Bill Belichick every single time. Bill Belichick usually is in his hands-on when it comes to the offense. So I think they're in a legit like bad spot, and I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching staff, which is something that is so weird to say, right? Like, oh yeah, the Patriots' problem is their coaching staff, but like it legit is the problem. Like that's part of it. But I don't know if you saw this, but in the offseason, this is a little bit off topic, but in the offseason, there was like a rumored trade of like the Raiders, since McDaniels went to the Raiders are potentially going to swap Derek Carr and Mac Jones. And I was like, dude, the Patriots should be all over that. And Patriots fans hated that idea. They wouldn't have these problems. Like if you have a guy like Derek Carr running like like running the helm, I think it'd look a lot better. But it just seems
Oh
like,
yeah.
and this also isn't like to be like, oh Mac, like way to go Mac Jones. Like I don't think it's going to be his fault that they're bad, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that's going to be able to elevate this offense or is going to have the experience to really come out there and be like, all right, like let's get this going. Like I can kind of be not like a coach, but a coach on the field where like Derek Carr totally would have been that. Like, dude, I think they were in such a bad spot. Like I think they're gonna suck. Like maybe not defensively, and like they won't suck because they'll squeak out games and they'll win stuff by 2 points. But like as the Patriots always do. But the offense is probably gonna be a bottom 5 offense, dude. Like I don't know how it's gonna be any better than that.
Like their running back core isn't bad, but it's not enough to carry you. Right? Like Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, they're not bad players. But when they're a focal point, when they're the offense, then they're bad. Now, if you had Devontae Adams, and then you had those guys, you'd be like, wow, that's a good core to have. But when your entire offense is based on being able to run the football, and you don't have that great of an offensive line, and your running back core is like average, and your quarterback is probably below average, maybe average, he's kind of accurate, it's not going to work. Now, they'll probably win games, like Matt said, because Belichick squeaks them out. He out-coaches everybody outside of, the top-tier coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the old Sean McDermott Bill Belichick game last year in like the crazy weather. That was a sweet one. But who's there next to Belichick? Running the power pitch offense. It's Josh McDaniels. He's been there for so long, and you had that continuity there, even though Mac Jones is a rookie quarterback. So you just don't have that this year. Like, and they also lose J.C. Jackson after just losing Stephon Gilmore. So the cornerback room isn't as good. Like, I just think this team's going to take a serious decline. And also, like, just for reference, like last year, I thought the Patriots were like really underrated. I expected Mac Jones to be pretty solid last year. And I thought they were going to be a playoff team just because you looked at the defense and you're like, yeah, everyone wants to be like, oh, 2020, they weren't that good. Yeah, but they didn't have half of their defensive starters, and all those guys were coming back last year. So I definitely like this team a lot less than last year. Question for you, final thing. Could they get last place? Could the Jets be better?
No.
You don't think so?
No, because Bill Belichick, the thing about, I cannot remember
I
who I heard this from. Someone told this to me. Maybe it was the guys from whatever that show was called, the Talking Trash or whatever it was. And they talked about how in the NFL, you're given 4 games, you're going to get ruined in 4 games, and you have to win the other 8. When you're given, and the 4 games that you're ruined are just really bad luck. Maybe your guys are hurt for a week or whatever it is. Like, Bill Belichick wins the games that you need to win. When another team plays poorly, Bill Belichick wins. Like, they are guaranteed to win at least, 4 games. Because if the Jets play a team and the other team is messing up, they can still lose. Like, I would not be surprised if they still lose. And I really like what the Jets have done. I said they can win, maybe 5 or even 6 games this year. But the Patriots should have 7 wins. It'll be like, maybe they'll win the first couple of weeks or whatever, and they're like, oh, they're 3-2. Maybe a wild card. And then it'll be like, oh, wait, people realize this offense kind of sucks, and they, started losing a little bit more. Kind of like last year. But, yeah, I don't think they get last at all.
So for me, like, this is what I'm thinking. Not that they're going to get last place. I don't want to say that because I want to have faith in Bill, but I do think the Jets are a lot better than they were last year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Jets are a lot better. The Bills are going to be better than them. I don't think that like the Dolphins are all right, but like the Dolphins are a lot better. Like you cannot say anything else. And I like Mike McDaniel, so like I started looking at him like it could be pretty close. The only thing is that all these teams are playing in the AFC too, and like the AFC is so absurdly stacked compared to the NFC. So like there's also that aspect of it. I don't think the Patriots have a winning record. I'm not going to say they're going to get last place because most likely the Jets will, but I don't think they're going to have a winning record, which is been a complete rarity throughout Bill Belichick's coaching career. But I think that I think that you look at the personnel and it's just like, dude, this is awful. Like they're not working with much. Like defensively, like who's their best player? Matthew Judon? Like honestly, like is that their best defensive player? And I know he was great there, but McCourty, like Jalen Mills, like these guys aren't like. It's not pretty, man. It's really not pretty. So that's probably all I got, though. Anything else you want to add, man?
No, I think that's all. Got to talk about a lot of quarterbacks today, which is a lot of fun. But anybody watching, if you guys want to subscribe, check out the other stuff. We have a bunch of different content creators that post on this channel, try and go live every night. And we set out the schedule. And so should be a lot of fun, guys. Make sure to stay tuned. We post all the segments as well. So check those out, as well for past segments and things like that.